Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Joe, and you guys will all know what that means in a few minutes, why I'm using that word today.
Awesome. What are you up to?
So, Joe, well, me, I'm getting ready to talk to two of my favorite fellas on the planet. You being, of course, in first position, but these two guys that we have on today hold a soft spot with me, so I'm totally stoked and excited about that. I am also excited about the new Seattle Investors Club format because it is turned out, for those of you that are listening and those that hang with us in the Seattle area, we have changed the Seattle Investors Club meetup formula, and we do these bi-weekly kind of small roundtable masterminds. And I didn't think anybody would show up, but my God, it's going well. It is so awesome. I mean, literally on Tuesday when I left, I thought I was going to cry because there was so much value given and so much focus given to people that actually needed help. Aside from all the awesome masterminding that went on, there was also a deep level of assistance and help giving to newer investors that, had like the direct attention of like 8, experienced investors helping out maybe another 3 investors that needed some serious specific help, especially on deals that have gone bad lately or deals that are hard to sell with hard money and all this and that. And it was just so spectacular to witness what went down there in this small group. So you guys can join us every Tuesday and Thursday for our roundtable small group mastermind. The one that we're doing kind of in the south end of Seattle has been at All City Coffee in Georgetown, but we are probably going to be switching that up to everybody's helping me find a better place because, there's we want to get a place that can host all the people that come. So it's probably going to be moving around to the Burien area. Of course, you'll get an email from us and it'll be on our website and our Facebook page where that's going to be. And that is every Tuesday from 12 to 2 and every Tuesday from 12 to 2 and every Thursday from 12 to 2, which is today, we are hanging at Zoka Coffee Roaster by Green Lake from 12 to 2. And we probably are going to move that one too, just because there's people that are starting to show up and word's getting out. So I'm excited because I love everybody and everybody's getting the help that they need one-on-one. There we go. Awesome. And Joe, for you must have time on your hands because the government shutdown has closed all the national parks. So what are you doing? You're doing like burpees in the Starbucks parking lot these days? What's going on?
Yeah, no, technically the only a few of them are actually closed, but there are no workers in them. So it's been interesting in that we've had some free camping because we show up and there's nobody to take our money, which seems like they'd want our money still, but they don't. So it's been interesting. I know that we're going to head off to the Virgin Islands this weekend because one of the Virgin Islands is a national park. So we have to hit that one up. And it will be kind of unfortunate that there's no people there to help us out with what we should do. We can always find it online, but it's cool to go in and talk with people and, hear from people that are actually living out there or living in the parks or around the parks to figure out what we should do.
You're flying there?
Yeah, so it's a couple-hour flight from Miami to get out to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I honestly don't really know what to expect, but
wow. Can't wait for next week's podcast when we find out.
Yeah.
Right,
and
right on.
Yesterday we went to Biscayne.
You know what? I just got to stop for a second because my mind just went to the gutter because we've been using the word virgin. And I was
Oh
thinking
no.
about how am I going to transition these guys in? And then, I don't think that'll be my word, but I'm just saying I'm my you guys, I won't do that to you guys if you're, my buddies that are listening here. But
Thanks
so
for saying
better keep talking, Joe, because I'm trying to pick up my transition.
I'll just keep going and you let me know when you're ready. So yesterday we went to Biscayne National Park, which is actually pretty much all underwater. So we did snorkeling and saw all kinds of cool stuff, but they took us out on a boat like 40 minutes away from land to get to, this underwater wonderland, if you will, which was pretty fun. Yeah, and then we have the U.S.
That
Virgin
does sound
Islands.
awesome. Would that be like snorkeling in a national park, or
Yeah,
on a
it's
submarine?
I don't know if there's any submarine. I think that most of the area was actually only 4 to 8 feet deep, so it wasn't very deep. So we did snorkeling. I'm guessing there's got to be some scuba, but although I didn't hear about any of it, but just spent like an hour or so snorkeling around, seeing all kinds of stuff. Emily saw a nurse shark, so there was a shark sighting.
Cool. Well, I found my transition.
Hit it.
So here we go. Ready? You guys all ready? Speaking of underwater, there is a ton of calls that are coming through to some of my lender friends and myself on investors that are currently underwater in their deals. Speaking of the word underwater, sorry guys, kind of weak, but I got to go with it. And we got 2 guys on the line today that are very talented in assisting anybody who might be underwater in their deals, because not only are they the dopest marketers in town when it comes to real estate, but these guys know what's going on as far as how to assist investors who are in trouble with their creative thinking. I'm just making this up as I go, guys, because I had to go with the word underwater. So jump on. We've got, I'm gonna butcher it. We got my 2 of my favorite guys on the podcast today, Ariv, Adiaman. I say it, Adiaman, and Awesome Kasim. I'm gonna butcher the last name, Siddiqui. How do you guys say it? Say it correctly.
So my name is Ariv Adiaman,
and I'm Kasim Siddiqui.
Nice.
There we go. Sorry guys, I tried my best.
Oh, you're good.
I'm butchering it.
Yeah, I mean, we're in real estate. We have to introduce ourselves to people all the time, and it's fun. People will be like, those are the guys with the interesting names, and that's the way they remember.
You know what? That's right.
Yeah,
it's memorable.
Any way you can uniquely identify yourself, it's it's something that sticks in people's heads. Like before we started the podcast, we're saying like the way Kasim introduces himself always is like, hey, my name is Kasim, like Awesome Kasim, and then I'd be like, my name is Ariv, believe in Ariv. And then they're like, oh, yeah, those are the guys with the rhymes. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, and it's just a way to, make people remember you.
Well, I'm going to let Joe kick us off with, I've definitely remembered you. You guys have been since the day I met you. Actually, yeah. I think, what is it, first time we met? Did we meet at a coffee shop? Did we meet at Starbucks in Green Lake or something like that?
Yeah, I think the first time we had met face-to-face and had an interaction was like I want to say August or September of 2016.
Wow.
Around we were just getting kicked off and just really beginning our real estate journey. But the first time, actually, the way it had happened was somehow we had gotten Joe's email and we had sent him some deals we had under contract. And Joe met us up at a coffee shop, I think somewhere in Ballard, and he told us about Seattle Investors Club, and we're like, cool. We'll be down. We went to a meeting, thought it was amazing. We kind of met you over there, and then we just decided to meet up again for coffee later.
Awesome sauce. Well, I'm going to let Joe kick us off with kind of our standard kickoff question, because we need to know in detail all about you guys.
Sure.
So go for it.
Yeah. So we always like to kick off this first question with getting to know you guys a little bit more intimately. Uh-huh. So we'd like to know, where are you guys from? How did you grow up? How did you get to where you are today? Did you have any figures in that process that, were influential that you would like to know? We want to know more about you. So let us have it.
Yeah.
And
So
we want to know how you guys met too. How did you guys meet?
sure. Yeah. We'll get to that. So I guess we'll start with kind of like our individual backgrounds, and then we'll talk about how we met. So I'll start. Yeah. Like my name is Ariv and Adiaman. So like just kind of background about myself. I was born in a city in southern India called Nagarkoil, and that's actually around where I lived until I was around 7.5, 8 years old. And at that age, my family moved to the United States, and we've been here since. And we moved directly to Kirkland, Washington. Lived kind of all over like Linwood, and then eventually my family bought a house in Bothell around the time I was 15, 16 years old. And yeah, like to me, being an immigrant, like being a child of immigrant parents in this country, and being an immigrant myself, like the opportunities that this country provided was always a topic of conversation within our family. So it was always about making the best of what we have. So yeah, to me it was always about, okay, what's the next step we're going to take towards being successful. And yeah, and I went to the University of Washington. I actually majored in electrical engineering, and decided at that time that was the path I wanted to pursue. And worked at companies like Microsoft, and then later consulted with a company called Accenture, and eventually down past that corporate road, I decided I wanted to get into some sort of business, and figured, well, what product or service am I going to sell? And at that time, reading some books about real estate, it made sense because, well, real estate is the largest product that exists, and if we can figure out the logistics around how people buy and sell property, maybe there's something there. And that's kind of, my background. Yeah, I'll let Kasim talk.
Hey, yeah, so, Kasim Siddiqui here. I was born and raised in Seattle. My family came here from Pakistan in the mid-'80s. My dad came here to go to pharmacy school, so, he was here for the opportunity. Both me and Ariv are actually firstborns. So, there's that pressure of, you're the firstborn, the first one being raised in this country, so you kind of have to figure stuff out on your own. Once I heard about UW, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to UW. That's the best college in the area. So that's what I put my mind to, and both of us went to UW. And that's actually where we met. We both met at UW in calculus class. We were just sitting in class, and they're like, hey, it's the first day of class, and they're like, everyone needs to get into groups of 2 and, work on this assignment. And so me and Ariv kind of looked at each other like, yeah, I think probably the best person to work with here, and realized we were both probably the smartest guys in the class.
No, we sat next to each other, and actually, like, it's like I kind of knew right away because like the teacher would be asking questions about certain like, does anybody know this, that, and the third, and Kasim would just raise his hand and he knew the answer, and I'm like, I'm gonna work with that guy. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. Yeah, and yeah, the rest is really history. We became friends in college, and our kind of friendship began around really just doing homework together. And then that slowly blossomed into a real friendship. But it was always under the foundation of, you're a smart guy and I'm a smart guy, and let's be friends. And that's kind of how it was. Exactly. And we would have never in a million years thought we'd be doing business together. But just over a course of time, because Kasim also after college worked at Intel.
Right.
His major was material science and engineering. Mine was electrical engineering. So we're both from that engineering background. And yeah, over a course of time, like after working in the corporate world, someone in the corporate world told me, Ariv, you can have 2 or 3 things in the corporate world, but not all 3. And those 3 things are, you can have great health, you can have, great, the first thing is you can have that corporate success, where you climb the ladder from, like assistant to, just engineer to, senior engineer to, director to executive. You can have that corporate climb. The second thing you can have is great health. The third thing you can have is a good, family / social life. Pick 2. And that hit me really hard. And I thought about 99% of the people in the corporate world only hit 2 of those 3 marks. If they're climbing that corporate ladder, they had to sacrifice their health and family. And if they wanted to choose health and family, they had to sacrifice that corporate climb. And with us, we thought about, I think that aspect hit us really hard. And around the end of 2015, Kasim and I started discussing the idea of potentially starting a business together. And coincidentally, at that time, well, I guess not coincidentally, at that point, we saved up a little bit of money. We had our W-2 jobs. We figured, hey, let's buy property together. We didn't really understand the concept of real estate investing. We just thought we should buy property. It just made sense. And we did that toward the end of 2015. And as time progressed, life progressed. Towards some point in 2016, we decided, we need to try this real estate thing. I learned, Kasim and I learned about the concept of wholesaling, and it was really, really appealing to us because at that time it felt like, well, it doesn't seem like there's too much risk being involved. Kind of learning the ropes of the process this way, and at the same time, we get to learn a lot, and that kind of just snowballed into what we're doing now.
Where did you guys learn about wholesaling from?
So interestingly enough, there's this book called Flip by this author named Nick Ruiz. He's a real estate investor out of, I believe, Milwaukee. And I read that book, and to be honest, I just stumbled across that book. It was just a very serendipitous thing. And, after stumbling upon it, it just really made sense to me. It's like, wait a second, you don't just have to buy a house. You can literally assign a contract. What? This is a real thing. And and that's just kind of, that was very, very intriguing for us. And, just learning about that concept was just almost like, wait, this is a real thing you can do. It's legal. What?
So what'd you guys do once you dove into it is about when I met you, right? You guys had done a couple deals, or you had got under contract, I think a deal or two at that point. I don't remember if you got them done or not. Right. But what were the challenges, and what were the mistakes that you made when you got started that you look back and you're like, whoa, that is okay, because everybody makes mistakes when they get started. There's so much availability now of coaching, and to me, it's you can avoid making mistakes today because there seems like there's so much coaching and help available, and local real estate investment clubs that hopefully everybody's educating themselves before they go out and just mess with people's lives is what happens. But what are the biggest hurdles when you got started, and did you stumble or stub your toe along the way? What happened?
Right. So, one of the first biggest mistakes we made was, like Ariv mentioned, we learned about wholesaling from Nick Ruiz, who is a Wisconsin investor, right? And the mistake we made was not doing research in kind of the norms and generalities of our specific locality, Seattle. And so in his market, in his marketing, he'd mention, oh yeah, buyer will cover all closing costs, including excise tax and all that. Because I think over there, it might have just been low enough or whatever. But as we know, in Washington State, excise tax is really high, and it's almost always typically paid for by the seller. But, because of us learning from basically the wrong locality, we kind of thought, we promised some seller that we would pay the excise tax. And we negotiated a perfect price. We got a buyer who was ready to go on it. And actually it was Taro. Taro always laughs at us and brings up this story. And we always make fun of it. It's 2016 Ravenna. It happened in 2016, and the address was 2016 Ravenna. And we still remember it every day, every time we meet him. But he'll bring that up. And so what happened was we had the buyer already in place, and then when the contracts, being set up and stuff, it was like said that the buyer would pay the excise tax, and then he was like, "I never signed up for that. That's a lot of money," and the deal fell apart. And had we understood exactly some of these little tiny nuances, I think we would have been able to definitely have gotten that deal closed. We would have negotiated differently.
And that's a very specific example. And that was one of our very first properties that we had, gotten under contract. And, through that mistake, we learned a lot more. We're like, wow, okay, well, one of the biggest things we learned was the actual, distribution of funds and who pays for what at that point. And, that really forced us to look into that aspect of how things are broken down and where the money's coming from and who pays for what, and things like that. That's
a great tip. That's a great tip for everybody that's listening. If you're, newer out there and you haven't done your first deal yet, you definitely should get your hands on, what the distribution of proceeds and what a closing statement looks like when there's a wholesale involved. or just any sale that's involved. But obviously, there's a lot of, like you guys said, a lot of little nuances there that people forget about. And they also forget about that when they're underwriting their deals, when they're getting them, looking to make offers and get under contract, is they forget all the little nuances of, what investor needs to pay on their back end that needs to be into the deal. Like, for example, of course, insurance and utilities and staging costs and so forth. So,
And another thing is like, another thing for the listeners who are outside, even if they're like in the Tacoma market or, like Spokane or Bellingham, like each market is different and there are differences. Maybe in some markets, depending on a certain deal, it could make sense for the buyer to pay the excise tax if they've negotiated the price low enough and, if it fits within the margins. So yeah, I think really just understanding like what the property is going to sell for, and what the payment expectations we're having come from the buyer, and in addition, getting a good understanding of what the rehab estimates are going to be are very crucial to getting a deal done.
So that was your first deal. What happened after that?
Yeah, so I mean, like just to kind of elaborate on your question of like what are some mistakes you guys have made. I think like another like huge mistake that if we look at ourselves now and we look at ourselves back then, one mistake that like I guess a mentality switch that we had was to look at real estate from an abundance mentality rather than a scarcity mentality. Like toward the beginning, right, when we would have a deal and we just found like if we just found any seller that was like, hey, yeah, sure, I'm interested in selling, and even if and we met up with them and they gave us an unreasonable price, we still felt like because we have this seller and someone said yes to us and someone responded to our marketing, we must, go forward with them and figure out a way to make this work. And, sometimes that's not the case. There are enough deals out there for you to not be wasting time on something that's just not going to work. And you're totally missing out on, like there's opportunity cost to consider. And now I think one of the, one thing we're, very quick about is like, we're very quick to pivot from one situation to another. If the moment we get the kind of understanding that, hey, look, the seller's being unrealistic, or even buyers being unrealistic, then we have to switch and, move on to a different buyer or seller, depending on the scenario. So yeah, that's one, huge difference between the way we
not spinning your wheels on deals, like forcing deals to go through. One thing I will tell everybody, that's listening today is that one way to deal with those situations is definitely, have more than one lens that you guys look through. And, there's price and there's terms. And as you get going, once you understand the basics of wholesaling and all that other stuff, it's time to add in some more lenses, because sometimes those problems can be solved with good terms. If the seller is, it doesn't seem to work with a straight out cash offer, cash them out, and, each party goes their own way. The next step is to learn all about creative financing and seller financing and how to use, debt in the right way and terms, right? Because there's price and there's terms. So everybody, that's kind of like the advanced version of the conversation that we won't necessarily jump into today. Sure. But it is a very valid point that you need to be okay when you are an investor or wholesaler to, not have to spend hours and hours and hours on every day trying to force it to work. What I suggest that you do as you're getting, started is that you pay attention in your networking on who in your network might you be able to go to with a deal like that is more experienced with creative deal structuring, because that's a whole nother level of education. And I know you guys are pursuing, learning more about that, as we all are. I mean, me included. So, awesome stuff, guys. So now do you guys both have a real estate license, or just one of you?
Correct. We
both do. So initially, only Kasim had his license because we were kind of under the mentality that, if one of us didn't have our license, one of us didn't have to have the fiduciary responsibility with the seller. But over a course of time, it just made sense for both of us to have our licenses because especially around the time I got my license, there were a lot of amazing deals on the market. And it just made sense for both of us to be able to, make calls and talk to agents and write up offers. And we figured we'd, double down on our efforts.
Especially if you're spending money on marketing, right? I mean,
exactly.
Being able to actually convert those leads into a listing if needed and so forth is,
Absolutely.
But if you go in asking for a $50,000 discount on the house and then turn around and say, no, I can list your house for, $50,000 more, that gets a little bit difficult. That's a whole nother topic for another time.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. That's awesome, guys. And so what do you guys, are you guys focusing on today? Are you doing your own flips, or are you more focused on wholesaling and brokering at this point?
So we did do our own flip. Like after we wholesaled a few deals, we're like, hey, why don't we just do this ourselves? And we ended up doing one, and that ended up we didn't make as much as we had originally anticipated doing that ourselves. And we felt that the overhead associated with taking care of a flip, it just wasn't our cup of tea. So we actually had a very different strategy that we started deploying towards flips at the beginning of 2018, and it actually worked out really well for us. And so the way we kind of went about it was like, hey, all right, here's what we're doing, right? We're finding these great deals, and we're getting them under contract, and we're collecting a nice wholesale fee, and and we're leaving enough room for the investor to make a lot of profit, and allowing them to list with us, right? So we figured, in this case, like there is ability for us to wholesale the property, collect the money on the front end, wait for the duration of the project to complete, and then list the property and collect the money on the back end. So that's obviously, a strategy that everyone's familiar with, wholesale listbacks. So one thing we kind of decided, especially when the market was really hot, was, the investor is making a lot of money. How can we get equitable interest in the equity out of the proceeds rather than out of the profit, rather than just collect the wholesale and listback? Because in certain situations, when we did the math, there was more money to be made. So, one strategy we followed was, with a couple of our clients, some of our biggest clients actually, we decided, hey, instead of you providing us with the wholesale and you providing us with, a percentage of the listing, why not just take both of those numbers and add them up, and we'll put that as a down payment with you to the property. And you add us to the LLC, and you put us on the operating agreement, and you give us equity at the end of it instead, and we'll still do the listing for you. And that strategy worked pretty well for us, especially toward the beginning of, before the market switched. But now we're going back to our original strategy of just wholesale listbacks, and that's kind of currently where we're at. So at this moment, we have 4 listings. I guess one of them just went pending recently, and we got 3 listings on the market, and these were all wholesaled properties that we had already collected for that we're now listing again. And in addition, we have 4 more coming up Q1 of 2019. That's a wholesale listback type situation.
Hey guys, Joe here. I just want to take this super quick break from the action to let you know something that we have really cool to offer you guys. As you know, marketing is the lifeblood of our real estate business, and Julie and I spend a ton of money sending out postcards and letters to people all around the Seattle area. We've partnered up with YellowLetters.com to get you guys 10% off all of your marketing needs at Yellow Letters. All you have to do is go to YellowLetters.com, and when you check out, use the code Seattle Investors Club, and you'll get 10% off any of your marketing needs at YellowLetters.com. You can send postcards, letters, whatever it may be that YellowLetters.com has, so that you can keep your marketing engine running for a little less money. So go to YellowLetters.com, use the code Seattle Investors Club with no spaces, and get your marketing going today. All right, let's get back to the action.
And for those of you getting started, what a great way. Maybe you do want to flip. I'm talking to all the listeners that are listening. What a fantastic, it's very easy to get your real estate license. Right. Everybody who listens to me knows that I'm a major proponent of everybody getting their real estate license if you're going to be in the real estate business. That's again another topic for another day. But if you're just getting started, what a great way to wholesale and get listbacks while you're involved in the investor community, learning and watching as you go, and then eventually jumping into the game yourself, right? It's a great way to get started is by getting started as a broker. For all you brokers that are listening that are sitting on the sidelines, you guys are leaving a lot of money on the table by either not partnering with an investor or jumping in the game yourself. That's for sure. So good for you guys for figuring out what works for you. I like that you are just doing what works for you. You guys don't like the pressure or the stress or the stuff that comes with flipping, and you're focused on what you enjoy and what you're good at. I do the exact same thing. I do the exact same thing. Everybody just needs to choose, what it is that they enjoy doing, do that, earn their fees and pile up their money, and then go invest their money in, maybe bigger assets and partnerships or syndications where they can grow their wealth rather than not just a bunch of fees, which is what flipping and brokerage is. So, and does your broker, how does your broker handle your wholesale fees? Obviously you're getting a list back, so that's a benefit to your brokerage firm when that happens. But what about the wholesale fees? Are they cool with you guys just keeping those to yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the times, like especially like the way we do our wholesales is typically not even an and or a signs. It's typically like the way we do it is a little bit different, and our strategy involves writing up a property with a kind of like a dummy LLC that we create for the particular property. And once the offer gets accepted and we have a certain number of days to close, the way we wholesale it is by assigning the LLC to the new buyer. And outside of escrow, we will get a consulting fee for the LLC transfer. So that was our wholesale method. So as far as the brokerage is concerned,
so you sell the LLC. You sell the LLC. Got it.
Exactly. So we sell the LLC, and so as far as the brokerage is concerned, we're doing the listing.
Got it. Okay. And so also for you guys then, what I want to say is you guys also have, let me ask you about the experience of, there are some investors who are agents, I'll just say, and they list their wholesale deals on the MLS. I don't know if all you guys listening realize it, but you can actually list a wholesale deal on the MLS using special language and so forth. You do have to pay a commission or to the buyer's agent. If there's a buyer's agent involved, obviously, when you list something on the MLS, you got to pay the other side. But I know you guys have been involved in a couple of those transactions. What is that like? Being involved in a transaction, how does that work? And what's your experience with either, have you guys actually ever listed one on the MLS, or you guys just be on the buyer side for your investors?
Typically, we're on the buyer side for the investors. We've actually never done I believe what you're talking about is taking a property that's off market, having it under contract, and then having like a right to market with the seller and putting it on the market. But we've actually never done it that way.
But you guys have purchased one for one of your investors from another broker or investor that has done that. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. I mean,
your Densmore deal you bought off of essentially a wholesaler that had it listed on the MLS?
But actually, I don't believe that property was listed on the MLS. Maybe, unless I didn't see it. That property, which is currently listed at the moment, it's since the work is done. That one we had just gotten the information directly from the wholesaler, and we checked it out. And
remember when we met up in Shoreline, we ran into each other at a property?
Yeah, I remember. Like, the same one.
That's the one, right?
Yeah. Was that on the MLS?
Yeah, that was listed on the MLS.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. So I think if I'm remembering correctly, we just wrote the offer up for the price they wanted with our client. So we didn't. That wasn't a property that we were involved with as far as listing. So we actually acquired that one from another wholesaler. And yeah, you're right. So there wasn't. I believe there was an SOC associated with it. That's how we got paid on the front end on it. And and now that work on
Do
that.
you remember if so you just got paid like a regular commission? You didn't see any difference in that deal being on the buyer side. You just got paid a regular old commission. You couldn't tell if it was paid out of some sort of wholesale fee on the other side. Is that correct?
For that one, we were paid as if it was a wholesale, just because even though it was on the MLS, I think the timing of it was before actually we did acquire. I think it was either expired or removed before or after we.
But if I'm remembering correctly,
I got you.
SOC on that contract.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just got paid because that's what the contract said. But
For all you. If anybody's interested that's listening that wants to see what a deal looks like that's listed on the MLS, that's a wholesale deal, shoot me an email at julie@seattleiinvestorsclub.com and I can share that with you guys so you can see what that looks like. A lot of people don't realize that you can do that. Is it easy to do it? Does it work? It's challenging, I think. I think it can be absolutely done. You can have wins. As a broker myself, I don't really like the track record, though, of putting stuff on the MLS or something like that and then having it cancel. I am protective of my reputation that way. So that's one of the reasons why I don't do it. And, I have great buyers that I don't necessarily need to do that anyways. But I think the idea of doing that is trying to get more of a retail price for your wholesale deal rather than, an investor price, which, investors pay less than somebody who's a retail buyer that would actually like move into the house or something. But very interesting strategy if it can be pulled off. And there's a avenue to do it. So like I said, hit me up if you want to know more about that.
Awesome.
So moving on to you guys have won some awards. One of them from Seattle Investors Club this year as the Dopest Marketers Award, because you guys are so cool about how you handle your role. But the other award you got was from the 425 Business Magazine, 30 Under 30. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Dang. How about any other? Am I missing any, or are those the two awards that you guys have?
We received, it's kind of internal like brokerage awards just for listing volume and things like that. But as far as it goes, those were the
nice.
What you mentioned were the two favorite awards that we had, put up on social media as something to be proud of, because we were really proud about it. Especially, Seattle Investors Club. Because, I
appreciate that.
No, because realistically speaking, like with Seattle Investors Club, like we had, when we had originally met you guys and like found out about your organization and what you guys do, and the level of, respect and impact you have on the real estate investor community was very vibrant. And, having gone to the couple, holiday parties, I think 2016, and then, I think the first one we went to was 2017. The 2017 holiday party, and then the 2016, 2017 holiday party. Just seeing how, just seeing how that went, and how happy people were for receiving those awards, and how hard they had to work to get those awards, and you recognizing them for it was a huge motivation for us as we started 2018. And funny enough, we actually had kind of a goal, this year we have to. We'll know we made it if the Seattle Investors Club recognizes us for something.
That's awesome. That's awesome, guys. Well, I don't know that we got you as much publicity as you got out of the 425 Business Magazine, but let me. I'm going to quote something here from that award, and we can jump into something a little bit about your guys' flow and how you operate and some of the things you're involved in outside of real estate investing. But one of the things that the 30 Under 30 award quoted you guys as saying is that you're into integrating real estate investing with culture, music, and technology to inspire positive change for the community. So tell us about what that means.
Yeah,
you guys.
For sure. So actually, it's funny because our mission statement when we began our LLC is that we are a company that integrates real estate investing with culture, music, technology to inspire positive change in the community. So that what you read is actually like the mission statement of how we operate. So when we began this real estate journey, it wasn't just obviously the idea of making money was a huge motivating factor, but I think it was more the idea of freedom and being able to fully express ourselves and help the community. And we figured, the only way we can do that is by being authentic to what we are. And, like one thing that you know very well about me is that, I make hip hop music and I like to rap. And that was, always a part of who I am. And I wanted that to be kind of a very established element of how we operate and who we are. So that's kind of where the music part comes from. As you know, as you may already know, like toward the end of 2018, I released like an official single that's available on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, and like a bunch of other streaming services.
Is that something that we can put in the podcast notes as a link that somebody can?
Sure. I would love.
Awesome. Send that to Joe.
Yeah. 100%. I even have a line that goes, "I'm in real estate. I know how to zone the town." Because like zone, like music, zone, like real estate. You know what I mean? The real estate.
That's awesome.
A lot of my music for sure. And and as far as like that's the music portion of it. And 2019, like we have lots of goals towards creating more music. There's a bunch more songs in the vault, and there's a bunch of more artists throughout, not only throughout Seattle, but throughout like international artists that we've connected through social media that we're planning on doing music with. And I believe like the way it kind of works is a big part of our branding has to do with the fact that we do music. Because a lot of real estate folks, like they'll know us for real estate, and then they'd be like, "Wait, you rap too? You do music too?" And it's like there's that whole that confusion dynamic really makes us memorable, and vice versa. People that are in the music industry will be like, "Wait, you guys do real estate too?" So it kind of has this positive feedback loop.
Do you know our buddy Jacob Weaver?
I do know Jacob. Yeah.
You guys should connect because he's real estate and music. He's in a band that actually is getting some great attention called The Regrets.
Okay.
So shout out to Jacob and The Regrets. They played at the Timber Festival out in Carnation this last summer. It was badass. We went, you can like camp out there. It's great, outdoor concert. And those guys are starting to make a name for themselves and getting into festivals and stuff like that. But you guys both do music and both do real estate, so you guys should hook up.
Yeah,
right?
Thanks for making that connection. I didn't even think about it. Like I know he does music, and I just kind of slipped my mind. But yeah,
absolutely.
Totally. And that's so that's a huge part of why we do what we do. And the technology portion of it comes from the fact that we are technology, like that's what we studied. That was our profession before we got into real estate. So when we did eventually get into real estate, we knew right away that using technology would be a big portion of how we handle our business. Toward the beginning, the way we did our marketing was very similar to how everybody else did their marketing. Bandit signs, like mailing to people, cold calls, things like that. And over a course of time, we decided, hey, you know what? With real estate, one of the most beautiful things about it, especially when you're a broker, is that you have access to all kinds of data that you can just pull and put into an Excel file. And when you have a lot of data in one place, there's a lot of ways that can be manipulated. So we kind of, like one of the ways we market to properties is we've created an internal tool that Kasim and I use that does a combination of Facebook marketing, Google marketing, email marketing, and text messaging marketing to clients or to sellers rather. And it gets hit. So like when they get hit on multiple different ways. And then when they respond, they've already seen us a few times. So by the time they respond to us, then we'll have like an actual list of people to call, which is a much more efficient way to cold call. I mean, at that point, it's not a cold call because they know who we are, and it's a much more. Efficient
I call that. There's a word for that I learned from one of my favorite gurus, Sean Terry, and he calls it. So I got it from him. Pre-framing. It's called pre-framing. So.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a real word or not, but it sounds like it fits to me, so I'm going with it.
I like
sounds like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
And yeah, like that's a big part of how we do our business. And as technology continues to evolve, we like to stay up to date with what's going on and what's possible, and the tools that are available for us to use. I'm sure just like everybody here, I think technology makes life easier, and we just live off of that principle.
So do you guys do you get a lot of Facebook marketing type stuff, or are you actually doing something through like a squeeze page website type of AdWords type stuff?
Yeah. It's a combination of all those things. So we do Google AdWords. We do Squeeze Page. We have like written like kind of an algorithm that makes it so that when we find a particular address, through some data pulls, we can find that person's Facebook. We can find that person's email address. We can find that person's phone number. So we'll initially start off with our Facebook by they'll just be scrolling through Facebook and then they'll see our ad. And then later on, they'll get the second level of touch is that they'll get an email about us, and then the third level of touch would be that they'll get a text message from us.
Right.
And typically we reach out to them when they've responded to the text message. And at that point, now we have say we're going through a list of 1,000 of these folks. We will press the button, the system will take care of itself. And by the end of it, it'll spit out, I don't know, just for the sake of numbers, maybe 20 or so contacts that we can call. And a lot of the times, obviously people are just curious to know what their property will sell for. But
right.
when they call with that intention and you present yourself as an expert on what they could get for their property, then at that point, you're building a relationship. And I think the biggest part of real estate obviously is the relationships you build and the people of it. People just happen to live, work, and do things in real estate.
And I'll add on top to that, because you guys are speaking my language. I do similar stuff to what you guys are doing. You probably, I'm sure, do it more dope than I do, but for sure. But one of the things that I'll tell you, of course, is the old FU, the follow-up is key. Everybody needs to know that. But addition to that, we're in a house, we have lots of competition in our market, and what always sets us apart, which I'm sure sets you guys apart, is walking in with options. Most people walk in, they can say one, maybe two things. If you walk in with options that nobody else has actually mentioned, then all of a sudden you look like the extreme expert.
Right.
And so just continuing to learn about all the different options and strategies and so forth like that is, once everybody learns the base of wholesaling and brokerage and real estate, the exciting part and the fun part is like I said, adding on and learning all the different types of options that you can offer to sellers through, whether that be JVs or, creative structuring, related to financing or seller financing and all that stuff, like we said. I have one question for you guys though. Now, I am a big preacher of, especially kicking off this year, of telling people, hey, don't quit your job. Do not quit your job. Don't be so quick to quit your job. Why? Because one, if you're an engineer working for Microsoft and you quit your job, now all of a sudden you're a real estate professional, but you have no, experience on your record. You can't now borrow any money. You've just shot yourself in the foot in regards to your borrowing power, which is hugely important in our game. You need to be able to borrow money. Did you guys feel that you quit your jobs at the right time? Did you jump too early? What's the story on how that's worked out for you? Would you have waited a little longer?
For sure. I think that's a very, very good question, just because knowing what we know now, I don't think that it would have been the best thing to quit our jobs at that point. But I mean, obviously, we're not living life with any regrets. I think everything happened the way it did so that we can learn what we learned.
Exactly. The thing is, at that time, the biggest luxury that we had was time. And so because of not having, because we did try doing the real estate thing kind of while we were still working too. And it was almost trapped in the side hustle thing, we would come home and work on whatever we could. And then, then you're just tired all of a sudden and you don't have the motivation or energy. And, you're already getting a paycheck. So you're just you're not as motivated. So for us, it was valuable to have that, fire underneath you, because, you don't have that W-2 anymore. And second thing, just having all that extra time to devote to, we could have a seller appointment at 11 a.m. and not have to worry about telling anyone. We could go to literally every meeting, every networking thing. And so, we could focus on ourselves.
Right. And you had each other too. You had each other, but
for sure.
It's, everybody's situation is going to be.
All that was very valuable to us. So, I think I think in the long run, it was probably the best
but
choice.
I mean, I would advise, like, at the end of the day, everyone's motivation levels are different. Life is different. People like we know very successful people in the real estate industry that are amazing investors that they do flips, they buy rental properties, and they have a full-time job. It all depends on what your particular case is. But like with our particular situation, I think things happened the way they did. And as far as being able to borrow money goes, like we have W-2 partners that we rely on for that. Like we actually invest. For instance, like Kasim's sister is a pharmacist. My younger brother, he's a consultant at Microsoft. And and we all like the goal is we're like a family. We all invest together and we're a group.
Right. That is actually a topic of discussion that we can talk about on another podcast someday, guys. Yeah. Everybody who's listening, is called a credit partner. And that's a real deal. That is a real thing.
Absolutely.
So that is something that, if but I do counsel everybody who's thinking about quitting their job to go speak to, a mentor and run through the scenarios and the realities of what that means before you do that. Everybody makes their own decision, but it is good to talk through it with somebody if you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, right. I don't think everyone should be quitting their job. I mean, we had rental income. We had money saved up, and we were willing to take the risk because we don't have family. We don't have a family to support.
And additionally, like age was another factor in it. Exactly. We kind of thought about it on the long term, and it's like when we started, it's like, well, I'm 26, you're 27, now 28, 29, but we felt that we had age as a factor to be like, hey, you know what? Even if we absolutely screwed up and lost money on this, we can go back. With that said, it was stressful. Right. The initial months we made no money. That's a stressful time period. But like Kasim said, that fire under us was a huge motivating factor to keep going and just really figure it out. But that pressure is not for everybody, including ourselves. Like at that time, we were sacrificing a lot of our mental sanity on just figuring it out and having that fire. So it's right. Like I can't say it was good or bad, or I can't say it was the right thing or the wrong thing to do. But like Julie said, for anybody listening, I would sincerely encourage you to talk to some mentors and see how you can do how you can get involved in real estate while you still have a job. For instance, if you're a technology guy and you're trying to get into real estate and you can provide technology solutions for someone in real estate, try to partner up with someone. Try to ask, how can I help you market? And maybe you can cut me in on a deal. You know what I mean? Like we're all people. And at the end of the day, let
me tell you guys that, you guys just hit on something that is also a big, that I talk about a lot and try and spread the word on. When you're getting started in real estate, everybody who's listening, or even if you've been in real estate for a while and you can't seem to click up to that next level, and you feel like you're kind of stuck in a, capped off somewhere, or you can't get the momentum going that you want. You guys just need to take a step back for a second, sit down and stop thinking about what all the real estate deals and all that stuff. Sit down and assess, what do you bring to the table? What skill set do you have, that you can bring to the table to offer somebody else, where you can maybe find somebody with the opposite skill set that you have. And then you guys can partner, not in a company necessarily, but on a couple deals or one deal or however that works. And if you are a tech person, that's like me and Joe, right? He's tech and marketing and I'm real estate. We complement each other that way. For other people, maybe somebody is a broker who, can get with a contractor, or maybe somebody's a tech guy that wants to learn and can provide, marketing assistance or, day job W-2 credit assistance to another investor that's more experienced, and partner up and help each other get to the next level. It is number one thing people should think about when they get started. What can I offer? Time, money, hustle, tech skills, all that stuff is a very valid point.
Absolutely.
But we got to wrap up here pretty quick, guys. But I want to ask you guys on that subject matter as young hustlers out in the world today. What are your favorite apps or tech tools that you guys use in your daily lives in your real estate business?
Sure. The CRM that we use is called Future Simple. It used to be called Base. That's our favorite CRM. We've tried Podio. We've tried a bunch of different things. And like we would sincerely recommend that to anybody looking to get into real estate, just because it has very like it's got its own view that is very intuitive for customer or client resource management. And you can also manipulate it to how you want. Additionally, another tool that we use for task management is called Asana. I'm sure you're familiar with that one. ASANA. It's a fantastic tool. Like it's actually free, and we use a free version of it, and it's been wonderful actually. And I think the upgraded version doesn't even have too many more features that are. I mean, it's got some features, but it's a great tool to just really keep things in order. Take notes.
Exactly.
Like know when to follow up on certain people, things like that.
Yeah, and one other thing I recommend is if you're not like an Excel whiz, like become one or become a friend with one, because just having the ability to be able to manipulate data and columns and pivot tables and lookups and all that stuff, like you get a list of leads or whatever you have, and if you can't really play around with it or like take a list of 1,000 and make it seem small to you, then you're just going to have a lot of trouble and do a lot of manual stuff. So just having those skills is really useful, I would say.
You mean, the ability to scrub your data lists, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And do it yourself without necessarily, I mean, you could always just pay someone else to do it for you, but just knowing some of the basics just allows you to skip a lot of those steps.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Google plugins, like obviously, my favorite one is Boomerang. That really helps. That changed our business a lot, actually. It helps with follow-up. Especially when you send someone an email and like you want to follow up with them at a certain date. Boomerang will just and you can mark that specific date, and then Boomerang next time when that date comes, you go to your inbox, it'll tell you, hey, send this person an email, and it's a great reminder for yourself. And like the greatest thing about technology is that you don't have to think about anything, and it'll just do it for you. You just have to set things up properly.
Sounds good, guys. Well, I am totally happy for you guys with your success, and I can't wait to see what you guys do this year. We're here. It's January 10th right now when we're recording this, so we'll be checking back in with you guys at the end of the year to, hear how it's going and what you've been able to accomplish this year. I'm totally stoked. I'm sure I'll be talking to you guys all the time between now and then, but thanks for coming on today, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here because I got to jump over to our roundtable mastermind. Maybe you guys can join us today if you feel like it. I know you guys are over towards Greenwood, but I'm over by Green Lake. I'm at the Zoka Coffee Roaster from 12 to 2. If you guys feel like coming over.
No, that's our stomping grounds these days.
Right on.
Yeah. So but that mastermind does sound very interesting, and we'd love to participate. One of our goals in 2019 is to, be more involved in the networking, like we were toward the beginning of our real estate careers. So yeah, I'm very positive we'll be seeing each other around.
Awesome. All right, Joe, where can they find the details?
Yeah. You can find all of the show notes at SeattleInvestorsClub.com/62. That's SeattleInvestorsClub.com/62. And if you enjoyed this podcast at all, we'd love to have you give us a review on iTunes, and you can shoot right over to that spot on iTunes by going to SeattleInvestorsClub.com/iTunes. Simple as that.
Awesome sauce. Hey, Joe, how do if they want to be like notified of new podcasts that drop, because we drop them every week on what, Fridays?
The podcasts actually come out on Thursdays, but then we let everybody know about it on Fridays. So if you want to, you can do it on your favorite medium. So you can subscribe on iTunes or on Stitcher or on Google Play or on our website. So if you just go to SeattleInvestorsClub.com/podcasts, you'll see an email opt-in form, and you can subscribe right there. And that way, not only will you get the shows in your inbox, but you'll also get a little bit of commentary from us about what the show is all about and why you should listen to it.
Sweet. Awesome.
Sweetness. All right, guys. everybody have a wonderful, wonderful rest of their week. And I'll see you guys all soon.
All right.
Sounds
Have
good.
a good one, Julie.
Thank you so much
Bye,
again
Joe.
for having us, guys.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.